Now, I just want to spend a minute talking about a couple of the, some of the parallels between mass incarceration and Jim Crow, and then, I'm going to end it. I don't want to, once I get started talking here, I can go. But consider some of the rules and laws that apply to those labeled felons today, and ask yourself if they remind you of a bygone era. Denial of the right to vote, right? 48 states, the District of Columbia, deny prisoners the right to vote. Now, mind you, that's not the case in other Western democracies. In fact, in other countries, there are often voting campaigns within prisons. There's voting drives within prisons. In other Western democracies, you don't forfeit your citizenship when you go to prison. You're still a person. You're still a citizen. You're still part of that country, even if you're in prison. You get to vote. In the United States, nearly every state denies prisoners the right to vote, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, because then once you're released, you can be denied the right to vote for a period of years, maybe until your probation or parole expires, or for the rest of your life. It's up to the individual state. And nationwide, about 1 in 8 black men are either temporarily or permanently disenfranchised as a result of felon disenfranchisement laws. Exclusion from jury service. One hallmark of the Jim Crow era, of course, were the all-white juries, particularly in the South. Well, these all-white juries have had a roaring comeback in recent years. Why? Well, in part because anyone convicted of a felony is considered automatically ineligible for jury service. Automatically ineligible for jury service. And then, get this. If you've ever had a negative experience with law enforcement, you could be struck from a jury for cause. Prosecutors able to persuade the judge that that negative experience that you have with law enforcement might bias your judgment in a criminal case. Now, good luck finding many African Americans, particularly of poor communities of color, who have not yet had a negative experience with law enforcement that conceivably biased them in a criminal case. So even in some areas with relatively large black populations, you see all-white or nearly all-white juries returning again. Now, employment discrimination, perfectly legal once you've been branded a felon. It doesn't matter whether that felony happened last week or 30 years ago. For the rest of your life, you're checking that box on employment applications. Have you ever been convicted of a felony? And about 70% of employers in surveys say they won't even consider, won't even think about hiring somebody convicted of a drug felony. And more than 90% won't even consider hiring someone convicted of something categorized as a violent felony. Those applications go straight in the trash without any further consideration. And hundreds of professional licenses are off limits, to people convicted of felonies. In some states you can't even get a license to be a barber if you've been convicted of a felony. Housing discrimination, perfectly legal. Public housing projects, can discriminate against you for life because of your criminal record. In fact, they're authorized to discriminate against you for arrests. You don't even have to be convicted of a crime. You can be excluded from public housing based on an arrest record. And in fact, you are excluded from public housing by law, thanks to the Clinton administration, for a minimum of 5 years upon release from prison. What are folks supposed to do? What are folks supposed to do? Well, discrimination of public benefits is perfectly legal. Food stamps are off limits to you for the rest of your life. Federally funded food stamps off limits to you for the rest of your life if you've ever been convicted of a drug felony. Pregnant women, people with HIV and AIDS, doesn't matter how sick you are, how poor you are, how hungry you are, no food stamps. Now, what are you supposed to do? Well, this system expects you to pay back hundreds or thousands of dollars in fees, fines, court costs, accumulated back child support. In some states you're actually expected to pay back the cost of your imprisonment upon release.
Come on now.
And then get this, even if you're one of the very lucky few who actually manage to get a job in this economy that doesn't provide jobs to people who don't have criminal records. Even if you're one of the lucky few who managed to get a job, legally up to 100% of your wages can be garnished.
It's crazy.
To pay back the costs, all those fees, fines, court costs, plus accumulated back, child support. What do we expect folks to do? What is the system designed to do?
Right.
Well, the system is designed to send people right back to prison, which is what, in fact, happens about 70% of the time. About 70% of released prisoners return within 3 years, and the majority of those who return do so in a matter of months, because the challenges associated with mere survival on the outside are so immense.